With our work, have identified some competitions that they'd like us to enter over the next year, and we'll certainly be doing that. But this work was funded by the Alcoa Foundation. It deals with recycling, and you hear a lot about recycling in this conference we just did in the last session. They are a very philanthropic organization as well as a very successful industrial company. Hundreds of millions of dollars they donate to universities such as Ohio State. A lot of it deals with recycling. And the reason they're so focused on recycling is that it takes about 20 times as much energy to make aluminum from bauxite, which is the raw material, versus from existing aluminum. And with the energy costs we're facing these days, the cost of smelting and making aluminum from bauxite is just getting out of hand. So our project deals with how can municipalities be motivated to recycle more, and the whole project was to develop the business case for that. So they wanted us to think in terms of systems, the whole package, to focus on life cycle impacts, because you're not sustainable unless you take that holistic view, and to focus not only on economic issues, but the environmental and social issues associated with recycling. And they have, economic equivalents as well, and we did get into those. And the other criteria they gave us was stick with things that you can get some metrics for, because without metrics we can't measure and track success and make improvements. So that was about the only charge we had. This was a grant they gave us, wasn't a contract with a lot of tightly specified deliverables. It was very open-ended. We had a year to do this, and what we're going to do today is tell you sort of like a status report where we are. This is we developed a decision-making tool that we're on the verge of doing some testing on before it goes commercial. It operates on an Android tablet. It quickly analyzes the economic, the environmental, and social impacts of recycling the primary commodities that are in municipal solid waste, paper, glass, steel. You can see the rest of them there. And it provides a signal to municipalities whether there might be some benefit to expanding their recycling program. It's not a design tool. It doesn't provide data that you can then move to a redesign or the design of a whole new recycling program. That would take some effort by consultants or technical staff, but this will give that first signal as to whether there's some fire where the smoke is. So the background and need, I know none of you are municipal recyclers, but you've been around sustainability and enough to know that we don't do a very good job of recycling in this country. It's a national economic drain. It has social and environmental amenity impact. We recycle about 35% of our waste, municipal solid waste. That compares with 90+% in some countries. And decision-making leads to where we are is very complex. Municipal officials don't often have the tools that they need to think things through, evaluate the options. There are political as well as the technical issues they have to deal with. And so what we end up with is our municipal recycling programs are very much under-optimized, if you will, and a tool of the type that we're talking about here we think can help to correct that situation. So the key drivers for our project, zero waste thinking is gaining traction. We just heard talk about how it is in one company, and you'll hear other talk today, I'm sure, that get into that. And it's all about optimizing the use of resources so that recycling can be part of an economic development strategy for a community, not just sort of get it out of here and the cheapest way possible. So we need to look at the triple bottom line type consideration versus just single bottom line criteria, and developing some tools, life cycle tools and others that will cross this complete value chain. So that's what sort of got us going on this, and our approach was to develop in one place, one model, if you will, one decision-making tool, all of the community-specific information related to direct and indirect economic impacts, but also the amenity values related to social and environmental impacts, And so we developed an Excel model that sort of built all that into one tool. We think it's quite innovative, but we realize that, you know, this tool can't expect municipal officials to be exercising complex spreadsheets and so forth. We had to boil it down somehow. And so what we decided to do was create a mobile app that was built on top of that tool, where all of the inputs by the user and the outputs they receive are very visual and graphic, and it runs on a tablet. It can run on a PC. It's very user-friendly. I mentioned earlier it's Android-based. It can run on a PC with a tool called an emulator. You know, I told you everything you know about emulators just with that statement. But the way we've broken the outputs down looks at direct economic impacts, two of which are the sale of recyclables, of course, and then tipping fees avoided at landfill. And then you've got some indirect and induced economic impacts associated with income tax revenue and sales tax revenues generated. And then there are social costs avoided by reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And then the environmental impacts are greenhouse gas emissions avoided per se, water saved, and you save water when you recycle because you're not, you know, digging up bauxite and other kinds of things around the world to make new materials. And then there's three categories of social impacts: job-related, direct, indirect jobs, and induced jobs. We can talk about what each of those are a little later if you like. But what we'd like to do now is, this is that model, an Excel model, very complex. It's just in here to sort of convey that, and for anybody who wants to see how all the relationships interact, you can follow those, the arrows and so forth. This is not something that a user needs to deal with. We're going to be giving you a demo of this in a minute. That will be Mike's part of the presentation. But where we got the data for all of this was the US EPA has a lot of information on this, and we built into the model at this point the average US community of 100,000 people. That's a convenient number because it's a round number, but it's also the average size within a few thousand people of the average county in the United States. Commodity prices, we got off the web. EPA again has something called the WARM model, where we got a lot of the CO2 greenhouse gas emission information from. The water savings we calculated using a life cycle assessment model developed at Ohio State in the Center of Resilience. There's a report by an organization called TELUS that's been working for a number of years on looking at the job impacts of increased recycling, so we used information from there for our model. And then tax and sales tax coefficients, we just used US averages. When we go commercial for this and try to get communities using it, these things all have to be community specific. But for the purposes of running a demonstration, that's sort of the framework for that. It's called Recycle Now. I should have mentioned that. Unfortunately, that's just a placeholder name. Somebody else is using it, but we haven't come up with a better one yet, so that's how we talk about it. And the way a user would employ this is, as I said earlier, get a preliminary estimate of whether an expanded recycling program might make sense, and that to that degree it's an educational tool to understand how all these variables interplay. It's a strategic planning tool. It explores the option of looking. It gives the communities to look at the option of sharing the benefits of expanded recycling with their recycling service provider. The way things work now, all of that potential benefit typically goes to the recycling service provider, but this gives some transparency to where the benefits are coming from and how large they are to just incremental increases in recycling, and the city can then negotiate to have this negotiating tool to have those type of conversations. So this is the point at which Mike and I are going to change rules here.